Definitely, I think God has kept me alive for a reason.
There are many tales of child actors in Hollywood who ended up in court, fell victim to hard times, or even faced death. But no story is more harrowing than the story of Lauren Chapin.
Lauren went from being a star to being someone who lived in the gutter.
The sweet little girl who played Kitten on the beloved TV sitcom Father Knows Best plummeted from primetime stardom into an abyss of drug addiction and self-destructive behavior before finally finding her way to salvation.
She probably should have been dead many, many times.
During the next 2 hours, Lauren Chapin will tell us her incredible life story. We'll hear how this talented young girl endured vicious psychological torture from her mother and depraved sexual abuse from her father.
Compulsive cleanliness is what I went through as a child, and part of that was dealing with the fact that my father was molesting me.
We'll discover the truth behind Father Knows Best, a show about a perfect family that starred less than perfect actors.
My experience with marijuana started when I was 14, I think, and I was smoking grass ever since, basically.
When Father Knows Best hit a dead end, Lauren's already brutal life became an expressway to hell.
Heroin, cocaine, interviews. She was dependent on me for, drugs.
That dependency led to prostitution.
Turning as many as 15, 20, 30, 40 tricks a night for as little as $5.
We'll share Lauren's pain as she remembers hitting rock bottom.
I took that meat cleaver to my left arm and I tried to cut it off. I literally wanted to die.
Finally, we'll learn how Chapin found the courage to crawl out of the gutter.
My mom has been an excellent mother, and I think because of her past, it has helped her now.
Lauren's story features intimate photos and rare behind-the-scenes home movies. We'll hear from her family, friends, and Father Knows Best co-star.
She's probably had more than 9 lives.
This is a tale about the ravages of fame, the horror of abuse, and the ultimate triumph of the human spirit. This is the story of Lauren Chapin, the true Hollywood story. The years following the end of World War II were a time of innocence in America. Streets were safe and jobs secure. Carefree children looked forward to a promising future. But while life seemed idyllic, some people hid dark secrets behind closed doors. The Chapins were one such family. William, a successful banker, his wife Marguerite, and their 3 children, Michael, Billy, and baby girl Lauren, lived in a cozy home in the Miracle Mile district of Los Angeles. Michael and Billy were budding actors whose mother managed their careers in commercials and film, such as Tobor the Great. Unfortunately, life wasn't so great for little Lauren. Born May 23, 1945, Lauren Chapin was diagnosed with a severe medical problem.
I had a condition called pyloric stenosis, and basically it's a hereditary problem. My stomach was born upside down. The baby literally starves to death if it's not caught in time. And so they had to create a pablum that would be like cement to turn my stomach around.
Lauren's medical condition was just one of the troubles facing the Chapin family. In 1947, Lauren's alcoholic mother was put in a sanatorium to battle tuberculosis. Since their father was frequently away on business, older brother Michael was sent to military school, and Billy went with Lauren to live with their Aunt Helen and Uncle Edward. Brother Michael Chapin.
I didn't understand why the family would have to break up. I didn't understand why she had to go away to a hospital.
After Marguerite Chapin recovered from her illness in July 1948, Lauren and Billy were reunited with their family. The homecoming was difficult for the 3-year-old girl.
When I was reintroduced to my mother, I think that was tremendously traumatic because my Aunt Helen had been my mother for so long, and this stranger was not my mother.
Marguerite seemed to have more time for her dog than her daughter.
Not my mother.
Marguerite seemed to have more time for her dog than her daughter.
She was not affectionate at all. I think she was afraid to get close to her children. I feel sorry for the fact that she wasn't able to be warm and spontaneous.
In 1949, at age 4, Lauren was sent away to a Catholic boarding school in nearby Alhambra, California, so her mother could devote more time to Brother Billy's promising acting career. Ramona Convent principal, Sister Margaret Spiller.
In the 50s, in particular, there were many children here from local areas where their parents were working or were in the entertainment industry, and their lifestyles just didn't permit having children along. And so many of the children were here from the beginning of the year through the end, all day long, and the sisters were really the only parents they knew.
Lovely prison. Ramona Convent. The nuns would tie my hand to the bedpost. You're sleeping like this all night long. You're not able to move, and you've got, but that was their archaic way of breaking somebody, of not sucking their thumb.
Still, school was heaven compared to the dreadful weekends at home, where, Lauren says, she was forced to play a dirty, secret game with her father.
I would snuggle with him in bed, and at night, in snuggling, he would masturbate on me, and I would be his little wife, I had no idea that that's what was happening, except that, I'd get out of bed and I'd be all wet between my legs, and, Daddy would always say, don't say anything.
5-year-old Lauren reacted to the abuse by compulsively scrubbing her hands, but no amount of soap could wash away her stain.
Well, compulsive cleanliness is what I went through as a child, and part of that was dealing with the fact that my father was molesting me.
Despite the sexual abuse, Lauren wanted to live at home, but she was forced to stay at the convent. Late one afternoon, the sisters told 6-year-old Lauren her mother was coming to pick her up for the weekend. When the hours ticked by and no one arrived, Lauren was heartbroken.
And just, thinking, oh, she's going to be here soon, she's going to be here soon, she's going to be here soon. And as the sun began to set, don't see Mommy. But then it became a little darker, and I see headlights coming up the street, and I know it's my mother. I just am so excited. And I take off running, and I hit the glass door. I ran all the way through the door, cut my head up here, cut my chin all the way open, sliced it open to the piece that holds your lip up, just cut. My whole mouth just hung down like this. And I get up to the car, and it's not my mother.
The nuns took Lauren to the school infirmary and called her mother.
I laid in this dark, quiet room with this sheet over me, scared, hurting, bleeding. They finally get on the telephone. My mother is having a huge party and said, I can't come.
Eventually, a neighbor drove Lauren to the hospital, where she required 157 stitches to close her wound.
Now I have bandages on my face here, bandages on my eye, bandages in my forehead. And I walk in the house, and here's my whole house filled with Hollywood actors, Hollywood producers, Hollywood agents. And I walk in and see my mom, and I'm like, so happy. Just look at me. Go to your room. I'm busy. Go to your room. Not, are you okay? Not anything.
Mrs. Chapin was convinced that Lauren's brother Billy was going to be a star, and Lauren was just a nuisance.
I was jealous of the attention that she gave to Billy, because she would always tout Billy and I against each other. What I wanted was her attention. What I wanted was the same kind of love that she gave Billy. It didn't happen.
Fighting was a way of life for the Chapins.
There was a lot of verbal abuse directed at me, my brother and sister. And there was some physical abuse. I thought that corporal punishment was excessive.
Late one night in 1951, a violent battle between Lauren's parents signaled the end of their stormy marriage.
I snuck out of bed, and there were my mother and father fighting with one another, and my father just shooting the tar out of my mother. I thought he was going to kill her. I honestly thought that he was going to kill her.
Neither my mother nor my father knew how to express love. And they weren't good drunks, if there is such a thing. So you saw the violence.
Marguerite survived the attack and divorced William in 1952. She was awarded custody of the 3 children and continued to push Billy's career. It was Lauren, however, who caught the eye of a savvy Hollywood agent named Hazel McMillan when Hazel was visiting Marguerite one afternoon in 1953.
I was one of those children that wanted to please people. There's that certain mentality that children have that makes them good actors.
Lauren soon began taking acting lessons and going on auditions. One fateful day in the summer of 1954, the spunky 9-year-old was offered the chance to read for a new TV show based on the radio hit Father Knows Best.
I didn't know how to read, or not very well anyway. And so Hazel, on the first interview, took the script, read it to me, and I had one of those wonderful good memories that memorize things very quick. So not only did I memorize Kathy's part, but I memorized Bud's and Betty's and Margaret's and Jim's part.
Lauren auditioned for Father Knows Best producer Eugene B. Rodney, who read the part of the father.
I knew his lines better than I probably knew my own. And when he flubbed one of his lines, I looked at him and I said, that's not right. That's not what it is. He laughed. He really liked my charm.
During the audition, Lauren even climbed onto the producer's lap and told him to put out his cigar. She said her daddy would never smoke such nasty-smelling things. Rodney was sold on Chapin, but actor and co-producer Robert Young had final cast approval. Young starred in the radio show and would repeat his role as insurance salesman Jim Anderson in the TV version, with Jane Wyatt as his wife Margaret.
I got this charming script, and my husband pushed me into it because I said, oh, the serial, I thought it was called. And he said, yes, but I want to tell you something. I ran into that Bob Young once in a gas station, and he's really a very nice man.
Young already approved the casting of 17-year-old Eleanor Donahue as his oldest daughter, Betty.
Betty's character was not always terrific. She was sometimes abrasive. She was sometimes pushy.
14-year-old Billy Gray was picked to play Bud.
Bud's kind of wisecracking, and I was kind of touch-dad boy, or, getting into everything.
Finally, the decision came down to Lauren and one other girl to play the part of Kathy Anderson.
Robert Young and his real family, his wife, and his 4 daughters chose the children that played Betty, Bud, and Kathy. And they had chosen another little girl to play Kathy. And when they saw my screen test unanimously, they all said, that's her. And it wasn't really because of my great acting ability. I'm sure I didn't have any. But I think it was because I looked like his youngest daughter, Kathy.
Coming up, Father Doesn't Know Best.
I was blind to the fact that Robert Young was battling alcoholism.
And later, little Lauren tries to end it all.
The 6th thing, got myself on the ladder, dropped myself, hung there.
Lauren Chapin's childhood was an endless nightmare. Mom drank too much, and Dad sexually abused her. When Lauren was cast in TV's Father Knows Best, she rejoiced. Life had to get better, but it didn't. Now she was a member of 2 dysfunctional families.
I was fine. I was adopted.
On October 3rd, 1954, Father Knows Best premiered on CBS, but the sitcom wasn't an instant hit. The program was almost canceled. Another network, NBC, picked up the show for a second season after viewers wrote in to express their support and love for the seemingly perfect Anderson family. The actors, however, felt differently.
We always intended that the title, Father Knows Best, should have a question mark on the end of it. And that was our own little private joke. So people asked me, said, does Father Knows Best? I said, of course not. Never did, Still doesn't.
And an awful lot of people felt that their family was not a success or not a happy event because it wasn't as exemplary as Father Knows Best. And I think that's sad to feel like your parents have failed because they're not Robert Young and Jane Wyatt.
Young, in fact, was a heavy drinker.
I think I was blind to the fact that Robert Young was battling alcoholism. I think that I never even saw it because his demeanor was so totally different than my mother's. You know, my mother was one of those mean, ugly, boisterous drunks. I never, ever noticed Robert Young out of control.
Working on Father Knows Best was a dream come true for Lauren Chapin. She was nicknamed Kitten on the show. And to millions of Americans who tuned in every week, the crinkly-eyed cherub was simply the most adorable, huggable member of the Anderson family.
We did a show on Father Knows Best about Kathy being adopted. And it paralleled my own life so much. Kathy was like, sure she was adopted.
Is it all right?
Is what all right?
I mean, to eat with the family. I can wait until afterwards if you wish. Or eat in the kitchen.
Kathy, stop acting and please sit down.
Yeah, sit down, Squirt. I'm hungry.
Thank you. It's very nice of you to ask me.
Just who are you supposed to be? Little Orphan Annie?
Shall I put your food on a plate, Annie, or just throw you a crust of bread to nibble on?
Just make mine small portions, Mr. Anderson.
Chapin's portrayal of Kitten struck a deep chord with the TV audience. Former child star Johnny Whitaker, who now manages Chapin, played Jody on the sitcom Family Affair. Whitaker knows that cute kids sell.
All of America loved little kids. And because she was so cute and because she had her little kind of squeaky voice that was just, you know, the kitten voice that everybody loved, I'm sure that's why. It's always the younger kids that make a show, especially if they're cute and cuddly.
Father Knows Best co-star Eleanor Donahue.
She was adorable, I remember. Extremely talented. Knew her lines. Was very prepared. And cute as a button.
In its second season, Father Knows Best edged up to number 65 in the Nielsen ratings. As the kids matured, the gap between fantasy and reality widened. Chapin biographer Ace Collins.
Eleanor Donahue was playing a teenager, but she was married and pregnant.
She was pregnant. She was miserable. She was trying to hide that she was pregnant. And she was having to don these shorts and these tennis shoes and look like a non-pregnant person. And I saw the struggles that she went through.
At the same time, Billy Gray was dealing with his own struggles.
Billy Gray was having some problems adjusting. He had been caught later on during the show with marijuana, and that had created quite a problem.
My experience with marijuana started when I was 14, I think, and I was smoking grass ever since, basically. Just all through Father Knows Best. Never had a problem with it.
Meanwhile, 10-year-old Lauren Chapin was desperately trying to cope with the crushing burden of guilt caused by her father's molestation.
I cried. I got scared. I would beat myself. I would beat myself against the wall.
At night, Lauren would sneak into her mother's bed in search of comfort. The only way Lauren could be physically close to her mom was when Marguerite was asleep or passed out from drinking.
I would try to cuddle with her, but, you know, when she would wake up, she'd always push me away. You know, just go away.
Although Lauren was the true star in the family, her mother still fawned over Lauren's brother Billy, even allowing Billy to brutalize his sister.
When Lauren got out of line, the mother would send Billy after her, and Billy would be the one who would enforce the discipline. And the discipline in some cases involved slaps and hits and punches. The thing that was interesting was her mother was, once again, a businesswoman, principally, and had instructed Billy, at least in Lauren's mind, not to hit her anywhere where the bruises would show.
Childhood friend Sherry Dunham.
And I'm sure she had bruises on her, but they were never where they showed.
Billy became 10-year-old Lauren's constant nemesis, once locking her in a dark closet for hours.
When Mother would go away, I guess it was, let's see how we can torture Lauren. I remember I was locked in 7 in a day, and I don't like dark places, and I don't like small places. But he didn't let me out until she came home.
Marguerite's drinking continued to spiral out of control. On one occasion, she nearly killed herself and Lauren.
Mother got so polluted, and we were driving home. I didn't think we were going to make it home because Mother was side-swapping cars left and right. The police stopped us, and they pulled us over to the side, and Mom was just falling out, and they arrested her.
On one rare day, when Marguerite was sober, Lauren summoned the courage to have a heart-to-heart talk with her mom.
I had asked her, Mother, am I going to be beautiful? My mother seriously looked at me and said, no. And, okay, well, am I going to be pretty? And she looked at me again, and she goes, no. And I said, well, what will I be? And she said, if you work real hard at it, maybe somebody will like you.
The words were like a dagger in Lauren's heart.
That night, I went into a tailspin. I went to my closet and cleared everything out.
Her spirit broken, 10-year-old Lauren decided to commit suicide by hanging herself.
Took aspirin, whole bunch, probably a whole bottle. Took aspirin, took 6 things, got myself on the ladder, dropped myself, hung there, maybe a couple of seconds.
Then the closet rod broke, and Lauren tumbled to the floor in tears. She survived the suicide attempt, but her pain lived on.
I would do things to hurt me because I hated me, you know. And when I would look in the mirror, I hated what I saw.
When the E! True Hollywood story continues, Kitten parties with the king.
I'm thinking, this is really a boring birthday. And through the door comes Elvis Presley.
And later, the needle becomes Lauren's best friend.
Lauren didn't care if she ever saw a dime of the money. All she wanted was the next fix.
It was the Knows Best was a popular television show. In the mid-1950s, Father Knows Best was a popular television show. But the program's success did little to fulfill Lauren Chapin's need for love. Her mother's rejection drove 10-year-old Lauren to attempt suicide. Chapin was a troubled young girl, and all the fame and money couldn't help her.
Death would have been a really saving grace.
By 1956, in the wake of her failed suicide attempt, Lauren Chapin began to spend more and more time at the home of her friend, Sherry Dunham. Sherry's parents created the kind of loving, warm environment Lauren desired.
Sherry was always there for me. That her and her family became my second family because I was always running away to their house.
Sherry felt sorry for Lauren.
Her family life wasn't very good, so she would come to our house thinking that we had a better family life than she did.
Meanwhile, Father Knows Best became a cultural touchstone during its 3rd season in 1957, climbing to number 51 in the ratings. Across the country, many Americans took their moral cues from the program's life lessons, and 11-year-old Lauren was considered an integral part of the show's success, a fact she was well aware of, according to co-star Eleanor Donahue.
She got a little big for her britches a couple times. When they called us to the set, they were first on the line. And we were waiting and waiting and waiting for her. And she called, she said, you can't do it without me, I'll be there when I get there.
No one on the show had a clue that Lauren was being brutally abused at home.
I didn't know anything about her deep emotional distress. She was expert at covering it.
I'm absolutely shocked that her father was abusing her. That was terrible. It was horrible. Never heard anything from her about problems, about suicide attempts or anything, no.
Former child star Paul Peterson befriended Lauren when he worked on the Donna Reed show.
You know, you keep family secrets. You know, everybody else is an outsider. But more than that, you are guarding your reputation. You want people to think you're okay.
The producers did anything to keep Lauren happy. For her 12th birthday in May 1957, they pulled out all the stops.
Mr. Rodney said, "You can have one friend come to your birthday party, sweetheart." Okay. And who do you want to invite? Well, at the time, I invited Mary Lombardi, who I had grown up with. And so Mary and I went out to lunch. We had a wonderful lunch. It was lovely, lovely, lovely. And then our limo drove us over to Paramount. And they marched us into the dining hall. And in the dining hall was this beautiful birthday cake for me. And Mary and I are sitting there, and this comes Elvis Presley.
For 2 hours, Kitten partied with the king. They ate cake, sang songs, and told jokes. Lauren was mesmerized. Chapin led a dual life. Privately, she endured abuse at home, while publicly she basked in glory. On May 7, 1959, the precocious 13-year-old accepted the best...
I started to cry because I was so flustered, and it was wonderful. It was just atypical Father Knows Best. Father Knows Best.
I'm so happy. I don't know what to say except thank you.
I started to cry because I was so flustered, and it was wonderful. It was just atypical Father Knows Best.
Lauren enjoyed the limelight, and so did Marguerite Chapin, who reveled in her role as mother of a TV star.
The whole time I knew Lauren, her mother never worked. I think the kids always did the working.
Writer Ace Collins.
Her mother, with no guilt whatsoever, was using the money the kid was making and providing the tuition for the schools for the brothers, providing the clothes for her own lifestyle, providing the cars, providing the homes, providing the social parties, and also fueling an ever-growing addiction to alcohol. So Lauren was the breadwinner, but she was seeing none of the bread.
Lauren, who came from a broken home, was playing a part in one of the most idealized families that America's ever seen. And that duality was a constant threat to her. And she knew the difference. Now, the persona that was accepted and beloved was Kitten, whereas Lauren, the daughter, the sister, was having a real tough time at home.
Lauren's problems intensified when her mother started coming to the set drunk.
It was apparent that she had a drinking problem because I could smell liquor on her, and she would get slurry.
Mother would always drink her martinis. Get those martinis. And after 2 martinis, I knew we were in trouble.
The mother was a real monster.
She'd come to the set crossed. So badly crossed, you know, and they threw her off. They threw her off a lot. And finally, it just got to be where the studio barred my mom. You can't come to the set anymore. I hated it. I literally hated it. I didn't want her anywhere around.
Eleanor Donahue noticed that Lauren was starving for affection.
She liked to climb all over people. And if that was a sign of a neediness that she had, that might have been one signal, because I remember thinking how odd that was. It was sort of unseemly the way she would drape herself on people, but it was not in a bratty, naughty way. It was something deep that she needed.
What the studio needed was to keep costs down and production on schedule. One day, when shooting ran late, director Peter Tewksbury yelled at Lauren because she couldn't cry on cue. The fragile 14-year-old snapped.
He berated me verbally, up one side and down the other, humiliated me in front of my crew and everybody. I stood there, and my face just got redder and redder and redder, and the tears went like that. He just That's it. That's it. Now go back and do the thing. I went back and did the scene, but then I marched off the set and I said I quit. And I didn't go back to work for about 3 days.
By the middle of its 6th season, Father Knows Best was firmly entrenched in the top 10 of the ratings. Even so, the show's end was near. When a writer's strike stopped production in early 1960, Robert Young decided to walk away.
Robert Young essentially just couldn't handle it anymore. The pressures were too great. He had to get his problems with alcohol and depression under control.
Nothing lasts forever, as 14-year-old Lauren discovered one Monday morning in February 1960.
I walked up to the main gate to get my pass to come on through, and as I started to come through, the guard stopped me and said, where are you going? And I thought, well, I'm going to stage 11. Well, I'm sorry, Miss Chapin, you don't work here anymore.
When the E! True Hollywood Story continues.
I guess I had been drinking, and we went to the backseat of his 1956 Blue Mercury. And I gave myself to him.
And later,
She borrowed a meat cleaver, not a very sharp one either, from a neighbor, and went out on a street corner and laid her arm over the edge of the curb and attempted to cut her arm off.
In 1960, 14-year-old Lauren Chapin was a has-been. After Father Knows Best was canceled, Lauren felt like a lost kitten. Until the devil found her.
He was Satan in more ways than not. He was the most evil man I've ever met in my whole life.
Lauren Chapin was stunned when Father Knows Best stopped production in early 1960. Biographer Ace Collins.
When the show had ended, she'd been given no warning. She was just thrown out on the streets, really.
I found it out in a very rude, hard way that I was unemployed. The youngest kid in Hollywood getting their payroll check through unemployment. I was devastated. I was really devastated.
Lauren was stuck. She was that 10 or 12-year-old Kathy Anderson.
When people would call me kitten, it would make me very angry because I wanted to be me, whoever me was.
And I think the only people who really found the transition pretty easy were the ones who were allowed to actually grow up all the way on the set, like Eleanor Donahue.
If it hadn't been for Father Knows Best, I wouldn't have had the career that I've had. And I was terribly lucky. When I got off the show, I went right into doing a pilot for a series, and then 6 months later or less, I was in the Andy Griffith Show.
Eleanor Donahue had made the switch. She was acting as an adult on the Andy Griffith Show. Billy Gray was just gone.
Gone or stoned. 21-year-old Gray was into smoking dope and not ashamed of his habit.
I think eventually it will be legal, and everybody will think, God, how weird that we put people in jail and ruin careers and for smoking some grass. I got busted for grass in 1961 or 2, I think, and it was a big deal. It was a big deal. I got a sentence of 1 to 10 and a 3-year probation, and did 45 days in a place called Wayside Honor Ranch, same place where Robert Mitchum did his marijuana time. And I think that was probably the end of my acting career.
By contrast, Jane Wyatt, who was an established actress before Father Knows Best, kept working at a constant pace in films and television. And Robert Young's career continued to soar, eventually bringing him greater fame as Marcus Welby, M.D. But Lauren missed the good old days.
Robert Young was very much a surrogate father to me. I remember on some of my birthdays that he would come to my house in his wonderful little black MG with the red leather interior and his little dashing cap.
Chapin's former agent, John Force.
The only normalcy she ever really got during that entire time as a young child and a young lady growing up
was at Robert Young's home. And she would go over and visit, you know, on the weekends when they weren't shooting Father Knows Best.
Oftentimes he would take me to his house, and I would spend the weekend with he and his wife and his children. I think unconditional love was what Robert Young offered me that my own family didn't.
When Father Knows Best ended, Chapin was not permitted to attend classes on the studio lot. So she enrolled at L.A.'s Marion Colbert Prep School and tried her best to fit in.
Going to school at a regular school for me was horrible. I tried everything I could to take on the role of being the normal child. I had no idea what being a normal child was all about.
At home, too, life was far from normal. One night, during a drinking binge, Lauren's mother tried to commit suicide by swallowing an entire bottle of sleeping pills. But Marguerite botched the attempt. Lauren was so miserable, she turned to her abusive father.
My father had remarried, and I wanted to live with my father in Pasadena. It was very, very difficult for me because I was having to not let my mother know what I was doing.
Lauren was scared to death the night her mother received legal notification of the action.
She came to the door, and she pointed a finger, and she said, "We want you to see what this little has done." She opened up the letter, and she showed it to my brother, and she said, "She has gone to the enemy, you know, and wants to live with him." And I ran out of the house with my life.
A nasty court battle followed, with her father, William Chapin, ultimately winning custody of Lauren. For a while, 15-year-old Lauren was happy living with her dad, stepmother, and stepsister. But one day, while watching TV, Lauren claimed she was again forced to play her dad's secret sexual game. Looking back, she says, the guilt and shame were unbearable.
That is a scar that never goes away, no matter how much healing you get. It so affected my life that I was never able really to trust men again.
But Lauren kept looking for a man to help her escape from home, and she found him at a New Year's Eve party in 1961. Her savior was an auto mechanic named Jerry Jones.
I guess I had been drinking, and we went to backseat of his 1956 Blue Mercury, and I gave myself to him.
After a whirlwind romance, Jones proposed to 16-year-old Lauren.
We had to get my father's consent, you know, which was so bizarre. Here my father is molesting me, you know, and I'm having to go to him to get consent to get married.
Lauren and Jerry drove to a town near Yuma, Arizona, where they were married on February 18, 1962. After the newlyweds returned to L.A., Lauren's TV mother, Jane Wyatt, threw a wedding shower for the young couple. But Lauren's real mother, feeling resentful, refused to participate. Instead, Marguerite Chapin decided to file a lawsuit asking the court to award her all future income from Lauren's Father Knows Best residuals.
Her statement was, "Listen, Lauren, I earned that money. That money belongs to me, you know. I gave birth to you. I had to babysit you. I had to take you to work. I had to feed you. I had to clothe you. I had to house you. That money is mine."
Brother Michael Chapin says their mother loved the good life.
She had a lifestyle from the very beginning of her marriage that was pretty decent, and she liked it. Anything that we made then contributed to her lifestyle. If she wants to lose that, she wouldn't at any cost.
Paul Peterson understands the pressures that come with child stardom.
I got my start as an original mouseketeer when I was 9 years old. I got started in the industry because my mom was bigger than me. Most children in the business will tell you, "Oh, I've always loved it. I always wanted to do it." Nonsense. Children don't drive themselves to auditions. Children don't acquire an agent. Children can't sign contracts. It's all nonsense. You get in the business because it's an enthusiasm of your family.
Johnny Whitaker is also aware of the financial burden placed on children in Hollywood.
Parents' primary job is to take care of their kids. In Hollywood, unfortunately, many times the role is reversed, where the children are taking care of the parents.
People have been comforted by this myth that Hollywood has allowed to spread, that all children who work have money set aside for them. It's true in only 3% of the cases.
There's no school for the parents to go to know how to handle the money.
and what to do with it. So more often than not, the kids get the short end of the deal in the money department.
By law, children don't own their own money. Let me quote the law here. Parents of a working child are entitled to its custody, income, and services. So children are chattel, like a cow or a car.
Chapin's mother felt she was entitled to the fruits of Lauren's labor.
Ended up a couple of years later, settling out of court with her, giving her 60%, me 40%.
Meanwhile, Lauren and Jerry were barely making ends meet on his auto mechanic's salary, and their cramped apartment was about to grow even more crowded. Lauren was pregnant. 17-year-old Lauren thought her mother would be thrilled to become a grandmother. She was wrong.
When I found out I was pregnant, I called her up and I said, I'm pregnant, and she said, I hope that baby dies. She said, you'll be an awful mother. I hope that baby dies. You should never have children.
As the words reverberated in Lauren's ears, her mother hung up on her.
I think that my mother did put a curse on me that night. I think that the things that she said to me, words are powerful. Words can bring life, or words can bring death.
Just a few weeks later, Chapin suffered a miscarriage. It would be the first of 8 over the next 2 years. Close friend Sherry Dunham.
She wanted a baby so bad. And every month she would have a miscarriage, and we would cry, and we would cry. I mean, month after month. For 11 months this went on.
To dull the pain, Lauren used liquor, pills, and eventually turned to other men. In the summer of 1962, Chapin's husband gave up on her and filed for divorce.
I was in severe depression, horrible shape. And my life just took a very bad turn.
In late 1962, with nowhere else to go, 17-year-old Lauren moved back in with her mother. It was then Lauren learned she had nearly $19,000 awaiting her in a trust fund.
I called my best friend up, Sherry Dunham, and I said, Sherry, we're going to go take a vacation.
A court declared Chapin an emancipated minor. She grabbed the money and impulsively bought a new Pontiac Grand Prix. With Sherry riding shotgun, the 2 teenagers drove off for a wild Palm Springs weekend.
We got in the car, we drove to Palm Springs, and we were decked out to the nines. We had all these fancy clothes on. We got to Palm Springs, it's 110 degrees outside, it's midnight, and we just looked, I know now we look like a couple of hookers. But then we just thought we were the cat's meow.
Lauren's wanton weekend turned into a lavish 7-month spending spree.
I bought me clothes, Sherry clothes, every guy that we met clothes, we bought cars, and I was getting speed from the doctor to keep me skinny.
When the money finally ran out, Lauren's rich playgirl life quickly screeched to a halt, forcing her to move back to L.A.
That's when all the problems started for her.
By that point, 18-year-old Lauren was hooked on speed. She lived with a series of surrogate families and spent her time walking the streets in a daze. Chapin often passed by the local barber shop, where she caught the eye of the proprietor, a man named Eddie.
I was 18, 19, he was 32, so he's considerably older than me, and very sexy and, Italian and just suave looking, and we would flirt something awful, but he was dangerous. He was a very dangerous man.
When the E! True Hollywood story continues, Lauren walks through the gates of hell.
And not only did he awaken me sexually, but he awakened me drug-wise also, and introduced me to heroin.
And later, kitten in a prison riot.
And I saw this man come down our hallway with a stocking over his face, carrying a hatchet.
By 1964, 18-year-old Lauren Chapin was a washed-up former television star on the verge of drug addiction and unimaginable despair.
I was perfect for the kill.
When Lauren Chapin met a handsome barber named Eddie in 1964, she was overwhelmed by his formidable, seductive presence. Not surprisingly, their innocent flirtation led to a steamy sexual affair.
And not only did he awaken me sexually, but he awakened me drug-wise also, and introduced me to heroin.
Lauren easily fell under Eddie's spell. She became his sex slave. With money scarce, Eddie convinced Lauren that she could make big bucks as a prostitute.
The first time that I did it, he set it up for me to go to this gentleman's apartment. I was to be paid a considerable amount of money, thousands, to walk in, to take my clothes off, to have the man look at me. Now, first of all, I had to dress like a little girl. They wanted me to recreate the role of Chapin a little bit. I wasn't a happy camper about that, but nonetheless, thousands of dollars when you're broke.
Soon, the cash was pouring in.
There were people who would pay lots of money to go to bed with Kathy Anderson.
Senators, congressmen, football players, baseball players.
To keep Lauren under his control, Eddie gave her more and more heroin. For Lauren, the deadly drug was like mother's milk, promising warmth, security, and love.
Lauren didn't care if she ever saw a dime of the money. All she wanted was the next fix.
Chapin began running a Hollywood whorehouse for Eddie, just so she would have enough cash for her drug habit. Soon, Lauren was personally servicing more than a dozen men each night.
She was doing as much as $1,000. But that didn't last long. In no time at all, she was suddenly turning tricks for 500 and then 100 and then less than that. And eventually, she was caught in Chinatown on a night and turning as many as 15, 20, 30, 40 tricks a night for as little as $5.
Life with Eddie was indeed a living hell.
Eddie was very much like my father. He was very, very physical and would abuse me sexually and physically, horrendously. And he would stand over me after he'd beaten me with his foot, and he would put it right on my bone, my pelvic bone, and just push as hard as he could and say, it just takes one good hard push. And he said, you'll never, have children or never have sex again. And that's how he controlled me. He was the devil incarnate.
I didn't appreciate just how evil he was and how bad he was for her until one day she came over to our mother's apartment, and she looked like she'd been rolled over by a steamroller. Her face was black where she'd been beaten up severely beaten.
In 1966, Lauren says Eddie forced her to smuggle heroin from Mexico. They were arrested at the border.
When we got busted, he said, swallow the bag. And so I did what I was told, and I swallowed the bag. Here I am in San Diego jail, overdosing, because the balloons, a couple of them have popped.
Lauren survived, just barely. A lawyer got her out of jail, and eventually she was put on probation. 2 months later, Lauren says, she finally escaped from Eddie when he passed out after taking dozens of downers.
Eddie is in serious trouble, because he really is overdosed. And I'm thinking, this is good. This man is going to die. This is good. I can live with this. Well, I couldn't live with it because I'm not a murderer. And I guess I waited a half an hour, maybe an hour, before I called 911. 5 days, intensive care. And he comes out of it and calls me. And I take off. I hang up, I take off. I don't think I ever saw him after that again.
The next man in Chapin's life was no Boy Scout either. He was another drug dealer. When 21-year-old Lauren married him on August 13, 1966 in Las Vegas, they were both tripping their brains out on LSD.
Being in Las Vegas and tripping on acid is very bizarre. And getting married while you took instant acid is even more bizarre.
But the bizarre relationship didn't last long. A few weeks after the wedding, the marriage was annulled when Lauren discovered her new husband never divorced his first wife. Still on probation for smuggling, Chapin tried frantically to straighten out her life. In 1966, to her own surprise, 21-year-old Lauren managed to snare a job as a stewardess on Pacific Airlines.
I was scared to death. I had no self-esteem, no self-worth, and I really didn't think, how would I ever possibly pass and be hired as an airline stewardess? But I was, and I did, and I got my wings, and I flew for a while.
Unfortunately, flying wasn't much of a high for Chapin. Within several months, Lauren lost her job and was mainlining heroin again. Desperate to get money for her daily fix, 21-year-old Lauren tried to cash a forged check. But when Chapin misspelled the word payroll, a bank teller reported her. Lauren was immediately arrested. L.A. County Jail is no place for an addict. Lauren acted up behind bars, finally landing her in solitary confinement.
Solitary confinement is a place where they strip you down to just your underpants, and you don't have any blankets, no sheets, no pillows, no nothing, just a plastic old piece. I literally lost my brain while I was in there. I think I went bonkers, because by the time they let me out of jail, and by the time I hit the streets, I was a very paranoid person.
Chapin was lucky to be put on probation again, but she was a mess, depressed, strung out, and full of self-hatred. Then, one night, Lauren says she started hearing voices in her head.
I really wanted to buy some drugs, and I heard the voice say to me, you know, if your hand offends you, cut it off. You know, just cut it off.
Lauren took the voices seriously.
She borrowed a meat cleaver, and not a very sharp one either, from a neighbor, and went out on the street corner and laid her arm over the edge of the curb.
I just said, you know, this is where it's at. You know, this is the end. I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to do anything. And just took the meat cleaver and just started whacking on my left arm. The meat cleaver just wouldn't cut my arm off. So I kept banging my arm against the cement, trying to hopefully break it and get it to come off. Hopefully it would die.
Eventually, she tossed the cleaver down and cried because she wasn't even able to cut her own hand off and kill herself.
Bleeding profusely, Lauren staggered down the street. She passed by a television store where, she claims, a familiar show was playing on the sets displayed in the window.
I remember walking down Hollywood Boulevard with my arm bleeding and walking by an appliance center and seeing the television on it, and guess what it was playing? Father Knows Best. Very surreal.
Coming up, Lauren flies over the cuckoo's nest.
It would be the first of many dealings that Lauren had with a world of psychotic people. And it would take her really quite a while to admit that she was one of them.
And later,
it was like a light was exposing me. Right there, everybody was hearing about Lauren Chapin.
By 1966, 21-year-old former Father Knows Best star Lauren Chapin had been transformed from adorable child actress to drug-addled prostitute. Incredibly, she had yet to hit rock bottom.
As soon as I walked in the door, I knew that he was a heroin user. I knew that he was a junkie. And so I saddled up right next to him and said, you know, where we can score.
With her hand swollen and throbbing from her deranged attempt to chop it off, 21-year-old Lauren Chapin woke up at L.A. General Hospital in intense pain. The police brought Lauren to the hospital after they followed a trail of blood and found her wandering the streets of Hollywood.
I was very disappointed when I woke up in the hospital of LAGH and found out that I wasn't in heaven, and found out that I was hurting. I mean, my hand hurt so bad.
5 days after Chapin woke up, doctors were ready to release her. So Lauren called the only person she trusted, her brother Michael. But according to Lauren, Michael refused to come to the rescue.
For Michael to say to me, either you get help or don't call me anymore, well, was that was like a slap in my face. I thought, how can you abandon me at this particular point in my life?
But Michael remembers it differently.
I was horrified. I didn't understand what motivated her to do that. She was, in those days, not in the mood to listen to too much advice or help or counsel. What am I going to say? You know, let's turn the clock back, don't go cut your hand off? No.
Feeling abandoned and disillusioned, Lauren had herself transferred to the psychiatric ward at L.A. General Hospital.
It would be the first of many dealings that Lauren had with a world that of psychotic people. And it would take her really quite a while to admit that she was one of them.
To calm her down, Chapin was given injections of thorazine. But when the medication began to wear off, Lauren was shocked by the strange world she had entered.
When I was on the cuckoo ward of LAGN, I made some friends up there. And one of the young ladies that I made friends with had a terrible sickness. And she was into hurting herself badly. And she would just put cigarettes out on her arms, her breast, her legs, anywhere she could. Her whole body was just scarred.
Doctors on the psychiatric ward believed that Lauren was trying to reconcile the perfect image of Kathy Anderson, who she played on TV, with the less than perfect Lauren Chapin, who tried to cut off her own hand.
While I was in the hospital, they diagnosed me as a manic depressive individual, and probably many other things, but I think that was just my personality.
Chapin was still a danger to herself, but was eager to get out of the psychiatric ward. Because Lauren's 30-day commitment was voluntary, doctors had no choice but to release her. She went back to her mother's house to await a court appearance for attempted forgery.
I was going to cop a plea and tell the judge that I was a drug user to not have, long sentence for my forgery charge. So I told them that I was a drug addict, and they immediately shipped me from LAGA to the prison ward, and from the prison ward, then they shipped me to CRC out in Norco.
In December 1967, 22-year-old Lauren was sentenced to 7 years in the California Rehabilitation Center in Norco, near Riverside, California. At CRC, she was strip-searched and sprayed with insecticide, then issued a uniform and a number, N1148.
My hand was still in a cast from here to here. My hair was still cut, so I looked like a little butch boy. And when I got off, lined up outside, but behind the wire fence, would be all the little girls looking for the new me. And I didn't like that at all.
On January 3rd, 1968, a riot broke out in the neighboring men's prison.
I remember I was just sitting in the TV room, and I saw this man come down our hallway with a stocking over his face, carrying a hatchet. And I could, it was like so surreal. I mean, what is going on? And he looked frightened. And you don't want to be in a frightened man's way.
Lauren survived the riot and learned the wisdom of keeping a low profile in prison. She spent the next year earning her high school diploma and attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings at CRC.
I began to join because I knew that would help my time go quicker, and it was something to do.
Chapin's parole officer, Gloria Davidson.
It gave people a chance to redeem themselves and not be tarred with a felony or this sort of thing. So that was very helpful, and it was very helpful for Lauren.
Gloria was one of those people that when I first got her as a parole officer, I hated her, because I didn't want to get with the program.
I think the reason Lauren survived in prison, in a psycho ward, and the other places she was she would fall back upon her acting. When she was in those places, she would become whatever she needed to become to survive.
16 months into her sentence at age 23, Chapin was granted parole. Lauren returned to Southern California. At a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, Chapin reunited with a friend who had also recently spent time at CRC.
I was released from CRC, went to my first NA meeting, and lo and behold, Danny Labata is at the first meeting that I went to. And I just knew that he and I were going to be friends. And actually, I really wanted us to be more than friends.
Lauren got a job as a secretary with Pearl's drapery service in downtown Los Angeles. She lived with Danny, who provided a constant supply of heroin.
Danny and I kind of fell off the wagon together and started using drugs together. And heroin, we started using heroin together.
Lauren's former husband, Danny Amato.
Heroin, cocaine, intravenous. I had a lot of heroin. And there was no problem for me.
Lauren and Danny became inseparable.
We were kind of true to each other, you know. We had a buddy, you know, which was Mr. H, and he kind of saw us through the whole thing, kept us together, you know. And we were both dependent on him, and we were dependent on each other. And she was dependent on me for, you know, drugs.
On a drug run to Mexico in 1969, Lauren and Danny were married.
I didn't want to marry Lauren, but she persisted, and was very persistent, and usually got her way. But I didn't want to lose her either. You know, I cared a lot about her.
In 1970, police nabbed Amato for possession. He was sent back to jail, and Chapin lost contact with him. While Danny was behind bars, 24-year-old Lauren had a run-in with the law herself.
I had gone to a bar, and there was a young man at the bar. As soon as I walked in the door, I knew that he was a heroin user. I knew that he was a junkie. We went to his mobile home. I didn't even know the boy. I didn't even know his name. You know. And we both shot up. And when I came to the next day, he was on the floor and he was dead.
Lauren tried to revive the man, but it was no use. She placed an anonymous call to police, tipping them off about the overdose. But it was only a matter of hours before officers tracked her down. Chapin was charged with murder. Lauren spent 3 days in jail before she was able to convince police she was innocent. The charges were dropped and Lauren was released. She came home to some very bad news.
My mother committed suicide, and I was in jail. I really felt like I was responsible for her death. I was responsible for this young man's death. I was responsible for her death.
At our mother's funeral, I think Lauren was extremely glad that her mother had died. Lauren looked at that coffin with hate, not with love, not with pity, and basically swore that she would never, ever go back to this place again. As far as she was concerned, it was over and she had been freed from this woman.
In the months following her mother's death, Lauren went on an extended cocaine and heroin binge. One night, Lauren says, she shot up some bad heroin and passed out on a street corner. When she came to, Chapin found herself in trouble with the law again.
After a number of run-ins with the law, a judge finally sentenced Lauren not to prison, not to hard time, not to life on the street, but to a state mental facility to get her some help for her drug addiction.
Coming up, Lauren goes home.
We're looking for people like Lauren that say, listen, I'm at the end of my rope, I've done everything wrong, and God's my only hope.
Just 25 years old, Lauren Chapin spent several years stumbling in and out of jail. She was more concerned with getting high than getting rehabilitated. And even the death of her abusive mother couldn't shake Chapin out of her misery. If Lauren was going to survive, she would need help.
I was paralyzed with fear and shame and guilt. And he said, as my eyes were closed, he said, all you have to do is take the first step, and he'll be with you the next step.
In 1970, after being arrested for possession of heroin, Lauren Chapin was transferred to California's Camarillo Mental Hospital to serve a 90-day sentence.
while I was in Camarillo, I met up with a friend of mine, Jack Hale, who was one of my running partners down on the street. And Jack and I were blood brother and sister.
Hale convinced Lauren to enroll in an optional year-long treatment program.
Intensified, like boot camp, that served to help get people like me off of heroin, off of speed, off of any kind of drug, and get their lives turned around.
Although Lauren started the treatment program, she never completely conquered her addiction.
Realistically, once again, the old demons came back to haunt her. The need for attention, the need for men, the need for freedom, the need for money, the need to get away. There's kind of a wanderlust in her anyway. When she was there, when she was battling to find out who she was, she met a young Hispanic man, a very good-looking man, who was battling the same battle. They fell in love.
Despite warnings from the counselors at Camarillo, Lauren began sneaking off with the handsome patient. Chapin's lover graduated from the program before her. As soon as he was released, Lauren realized she needed him more than she needed Camarillo.
I was 1 month short of graduating, and I left because the young man that I had met in the program and really fallen in love with had left earlier, and I wanted to be with him. I wanted to just spend the rest of my life with him.
They essentially became husband and wife for all practical purposes, but they never escaped their addictions, and they continued to, even after being treated, to use. It was really ironic because Lauren didn't consider alcohol, cigarettes, marijuana, prescription medicine addiction. She thought if you weren't doing heroin, you were fine.
A few months after leaving the rehab program, Chapin began to feel sick. At first, she thought it was due to bad drugs, but Lauren soon realized she was pregnant. Chapin was ecstatic. After 8 miscarriages, she didn't think her body was capable of bearing a child. Lauren was determined to take care of herself and have a healthy baby. She told her boyfriend about the child they were expecting and issued an ultimatum. They would both have to stop using drugs, or she would leave. But Chapin's lover didn't live up to his end of the bargain. One night, Lauren came home and found him on the couch, overdosed. So with just $5 in her pocket, Lauren hopped a bus in Camarillo and headed back to L.A.
I had no place to go, and again I heard this little voice in my head, and the little voice said, you know, there's a place of refuge, and it's on the corner of Vine and Franklin.
Chapin made her way to a halfway house for female parolees, known as the Vinewood Center.
Lauren lived here at the Vinewood Center for a while when she came out of CRC, trying to get her toehold back in the community. She had support here, they ate here, there were hours that they had to be in, and they were helped with jobs, with any kind of training that would be helpful to a particular person. So that was all very valuable for her.
During her stay at Vinewood, Lauren contacted members of her family. Lauren's grandmother, Gigi, who lived nearby, sent her a $50 check with a note that read, "Please call me." Over the next few months, Lauren and her grandmother became reacquainted and dealt with a very emotional issue.
And I think Gigi, as she called her, was the one place she could go that she genuinely felt like she was worthy of something. She didn't have to apologize for anything.
Since my father was her son and her only child, I knew that the subject would be broached as to the validity of my statement that my father had molested me. And I knew I was going to have to face that one. Gigi took me out to lunch, and that day when we were sitting at the luncheon table with her little frail hands, she put them out like this. She waited for the waiter to go away. She had big brown eyes. She looked at me. She said, honey, I promise I'll never ask you this again. But I really have to know. And you know, what do you say? What words could you say to a mother? And here I am about to be a mother. So I just held her hands real tight, and I said, you know, Gigi, the only thing I can say is that I forgive.
On January 7, 1973, 27-year-old Lauren Chapin gave birth to a healthy son, Matthew Edward Chapin. Now that she was a mother, Lauren visited a place she vowed she'd never return to, her own mother's grave.
Lauren went back, and I think she went back as much as anything else as a part of the healing process to attempt to make peace with a woman who had died, and she didn't want to go on hating her forever.
Thanks to her old friend and drug counselor, Jack Hale, Lauren got a job as a counselor at the Tarzana Treatment Center, but her trials were far from over. On her son Matthew's 4th birthday, January 7, 1977, 31-year-old Lauren was diagnosed with viral encephalitis.
It was our grandmother who called and said, I've been in contact with Lauren. She's in the hospital. She's terribly ill. She has her son is staying with just a friend of hers, and Lauren wants you to go get him.
Really, her salvation was the fact that she had Michael and Michael's wife there, because at least her son was well taken care of. At least her son had a chance at a normal life. At least her son wasn't being robbed in the same manner that she had been robbed as a child.
Michael and Carolyn began to tell Matthew about Jesus and take him to church, and Matthew began to pray for me, and, you know, the fervent prayer of a righteous little boy.
After Lauren was released from the hospital, she moved into her brother Michael's home in Irvine, California. Then, in 1977, Lauren received a call from the producers of Father Knows Best.
Lauren's life really came full circle when they did the Father Knows Best reunion movies. The first one in particular really caught her by surprise. No one knew where she was. She'd been out of acting so long she had no agent, and they had to track her down.
17 years after Father Knows Best was canceled, Lauren, who had been off drugs for 5 years, was given a chance to reprise the role of Kathy Anderson.
Being back with the cast was really being back with the only family that had ever given her any kind of stability. And it was a wonderful moment in her life. It was a moment in which she was with people who forgave her for all that she had done.
Father Knows Best co-star Billy Gray.
It was eerie because it was as if, like 20 years had gone by or something. I mean, a lot of time had gone by. And it was as if it had been we came back Monday from breaking on Friday.
It was wonderful. It was like putting on a pair of shoes that you haven't worn in a long time. We just all got with it, and it was like we had never missed a beat.
I'm sorry, Mom. Just seeing those people in a room and just all of a sudden hit me. This isn't going to be our home anymore.
Oh, darling, wherever the family is together, that's home.
Yeah, but it won't be like this. Oh, I'm sorry. I really feel stupid.
Now, grown-ups cry, too. Come on. There. Oh, Kathy. Ah.
2 reunion specials aired on NBC in 1977. They paid Lauren enough money to allow her to buy a home of her own, across the street from her brother. She also began seeing her boyfriend from Camarillo again, and soon became pregnant. On June 15, 1978, Lauren delivered her second child, a daughter named Summer. Summer's birth brought a ray of light into Lauren's life, but darkness lurked around the corner. Just 6 days after Summer was born, Lauren's dad phoned with bad news. Grandma Gigi was dead. Meanwhile, Lauren's 6-year-old son Matthew had been going to church and tried to convince his mother to attend with him.
Every time I go to church, I'd see everyone there with their families, and I was the only one there by myself, so, you know, I was like, well, how come my mom can't come join me?
Finally, Lauren gave in.
So we went to one church, and I found it formidable and cold and isolating, and I said, this is not for me. And so Matt said the next week, okay, Mommy, we'll go to another church. And for 8 weeks, we went to 8 of the deadest, coldest churches. We called them the Church of the Frozen Chosen, you know, and they're awful.
We tried a number of churches, and she didn't feel comfortable in them. So finally, she was like, I'm not going anymore. Well, originally, I said that I wasn't going to go to church anymore unless she accompanied me.
So Chapin gave religion one last shot. Lauren joined Matthew and a neighbor at a non-denominational charismatic church near Irvine called the Eagle's Nest. Pastor Gary Greenwald.
It's a Bible-preaching, Jesus-exalting church. We're charismatic in the sense that we believe in the gifts of the Spirit, And even though we teach Bible doctrine, we believe also in healing, miracles, prophecy, signs and wonders for the last days.
I remember it was in an old theater, like play theater. It was very old, and it looked almost gothic looking. I was a little kid, so that's how it felt to me. It was kind of scary. It was a really big church, and people started dancing and, singing.
As Lauren listened to Pastor Greenwald preach, she felt that he was speaking directly to her.
It was like a light was exposing me. Right there, everybody was hearing about Lauren Chapin. I broke out in a sweat. I was petrified.
In Lauren's case, apparently the message, whatever I was preaching on that morning, applied so much to her life that it was liberating her.
I was paralyzed with fear and shame and guilt. And he said, as my eyes were closed, he said, all you have to do is take the first step, and he'll be with you the next step.
This is something that she needed. Her mother had never forgiven her for making a mistake. Her mother had never offered love freely. The nuns of the convent school had never offered love freely. Her father had offered the wrong kind of love. She'd only been offered things out in the real world if she did something for them.
And I said, Lord, if you're real, I ask you to come into my heart. I ask you to forgive me. And I ask you to prove to me you're real. Don't ever abandon me. Don't ever leave me like everybody else has.
For the first time in her life, she was walking into a place where she was being offered something for nothing. She was being offered a chance to be someone special just for walking up an aisle and saying that she believed in something.
At that moment, Lauren says she felt a lifelong burden lift from her shoulders.
For the first time in my life, I felt so clean, and I felt so forgiven, and I felt so fresh and so new. And I have been walking with the Lord since March 18th, 1979.
Coming up, Lauren feels the Holy Spirit.
Satan is right there knocking on your door, bringing all the guilt, all of the guilty accusations, pointing fingers.
Over the years, Lauren Chapin faced death countless times. In the process, this former TV star, who used to be known as Kitten, has lived more than 9 lives. But now Lauren wonders, why is she still here?
She allowed herself to be used as an instrument of God.
After finding religion, 35-year-old Lauren Chapin decided to give show business one more try. In 1980, she appeared in a television movie called Scout's Honor, co-starring with other former child actors. Chapin enjoyed the experience, but the film did not resurrect her acting career. When the movie wrapped, Lauren and her 2 children relocated to Killeen, Texas, where Lauren devoted the next 9 years to her new vocation, preaching.
She became a very important part of an evangelical Christian movement. She spoke in churches. They embraced her wholeheartedly because they wanted her to have salvation.
Following her 1988 marriage to a fireman named Robert Kelly and the publication of a tell-all autobiography in 1989, 44-year-old Lauren Chapin hit the gospel lecture trail.
Matthew and Summer would travel with me, and we would go sing and preach and share testimonies. Prisons, schools. I did a lot of street evangelism because that's where my heart is. We sit down flatbed trucks and go where the whores were and drug addicts were and tell them that Jesus loved them.
I became an alcoholic. I went from alcohol to drugs and went to heroin. I was a $500 a day heroin addict. I went from stardom to prostitution. I went from stardom to prison. I went from stardom to trying to kill myself consistently over and over and over. But God is faithful, and God loves us. And God said to me, I was not a mistake. And God said to me that he had a purpose for my life.
While Lauren's ministry was a success, her marriage to Robert Kelly was a failure. So Chapin took the kids and moved to Florida in 1990. Lauren continued to preach and also got involved with teenage beauty pageants.
I was the state director for America's Darling for a while until Summer won one of the titles. I had to step out while she was competing. And then when she wasn't competing in that pageant again, I would help on the sideline, the owner, because I loved it. All of the clothes that she wears in the pageants, I design.
Summer Chapin, a talented singer who signed a recording contract in 1998, says her mother did not push her into the spotlight.
I think my mom has been an excellent mother, and I think because of her past, it has helped her now in the future because obviously she didn't have a happy childhood, and she told herself that she would never treat her kids the way her parents treated her.
Treating children with respect is also Chapin's goal as a founding member of a group called A Minor Consideration. Former child star Paul Peterson heads the organization.
A Minor Consideration is a collection now of 485 former kid stars who are, in addition to rescuing and supporting their own members, reaching out into the entertainment industry to prevent the kinds of abuses many of us were subjected to.
In fact, Peterson admits, Chapin helped him straighten out his own life.
When I was first getting started with the Minor Consideration, I was still drinking and using, and I was not clear on my focus, and Lauren was very helpful because she had gotten past her addiction.
Chapin's former agent, John Forrest, believes Lauren's past has given her unlimited strength to reach out to others.
I am convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that the reason she lives today is because God has used Lauren in a mighty way.
She doesn't hold on to her past. She uses her past as an advantage to help other people. So that's probably the greatest thing about her.
Chapin has also found fulfillment as a concierge, assisting guests at a hotel in Orlando, Florida.
I'm the VIP concierge. You get to interact with your guests, a lot of paperwork, but it is the most wonderful job. It is just fabulous because you get to talk, you get to know these people, and really nobody knew who I was.
When she's not working or preaching, Chapin periodically attends autograph shows and public events. Lauren often appears with fellow Father Knows Best cast members Eleanor Donahue, who published a cookbook memoir in 1998, and Billy Gray, inventor of an innovative guitar pick. Chapin says she misses her TV parents. Jane Wyatt is retired and lives in Bel Air, California, while Robert Young died in 1998. But when Lauren's real-life father, William Chapin, was dying in September 1998, she didn't shed a single tear.
He passed away about 2 days after I talked with him. I said to him, you know, I hope you make peace with God. And he said to me, there is no God. And I remember my last words were, well, you're soon going to find out.
Lauren is glad, though, that she finally reconciled with her brother Billy.
I look back and I think about the days when we were young. Billy was a pawn in my mom's hand. And he is so wounded and so broken. I love him so much. He and I have a wonderful, terrific relationship now. But I've become the mother.
Unfortunately, what Lauren desired most, her mother's love, is forever lost.
I was angry at her for leaving me, dying on me, never allowing us to heal our relationship. I was so angry at her. So, in a way, in my bizarre kind of thinking, I was happy, you know. I was done with her. I was through with her. I would no longer have to care about her.
What does the future hold for Lauren Chapin? It doesn't matter, Lauren says, because she is finally at peace with herself.
I'm content because I have a wonderful family. I'm content because I have a good spiritual life. I'm content in almost everything. You know, my life is very good.
For the lost little girl once known as Kitten, who was given up and left for dead time and time again, just being alive is a miracle.
She's probably had more than 9 lives.
If there's one thing my mom's taught me in her lifetime that I can carry with me, is that no matter how far down you get, you can still always come back up.
Most importantly, Lauren Chapin believes that finding God has given meaning to all the pain of her past.
He's an honorable, forgiving, and just God. And that when we make mistakes, he forgives us, but he also punishes us. And that's what a father's all about. Loving, corrective, instructive, helpful. He's the best daddy in the whole world. He is the real father who knows